the experience that I am awareness. I think where I have difficulty is trying to investigate that awareness.
Okay.
It seems when I try to investigate it, to put attention on it, it takes me away from it.
Yes, you're right. It cannot be investigated in the conventional sense, because you can only investigate an object. You can only give your attention to an object. So if I asked you to investigate these flowers, you could investigate them.
So I'd be doing that then with my mind. Is that with my mind?
Yes, because your mind can only be directed towards an object. Try now to direct your mind towards something that has no objective qualities.
No, I can't do
You can't, because the mind cannot go in an objectless direction. The mind can only know an object. If it turns around, metaphorically speaking, towards its source, it dies. It's because it cannot go in a non-objective direction. So it's not possible to investigate your true nature. That is why self-inquiry self-investigation is not a good translation of the word Atma Vichara, although it has some. It's not altogether a bad translation, because there is an investigative approach. It's an explorative approach, but very quickly we have to abandon the object-knowing mind. Only awareness can be aware of awareness.
How does that happen?
It doesn't happen. It's not something you do. It's what you are. How does the sun illuminate itself? What does it have to do to shine on itself? Does it have to send its rays out to the moon and then have the moon shine back on itself in order to light itself up? Does the sun rely on the moon to illuminate itself? No, the moon relies on the sun. The light with which the moon shines on the earth is borrowed from the sun. The moon doesn't have its own light. It shines with the sun's light, but the sun illuminates itself just by being itself. It doesn't need the moon's light, the moonlight, to light itself up. Consciousness is like that. It doesn't need the mind. It doesn't need to rise in the form of the mind to know itself. It knows itself already. It knows itself by itself. And that is your experience. It is everyone's experience. If I ask you the question now, are you aware? What will you say?
I'll say yes.
You say yes because you are aware of being aware. Now, what is it that is aware of being aware?
Awareness.
Yes. Awareness is the only thing, the only one that is aware. So the experience, I am aware, is awareness's experience of its own being. It's knowing of its own being. It doesn't have to go anywhere to find that experience. It doesn't have to rise in the form of attention and go out looking for itself. Its nature is to be aware of itself. It cannot not be aware of itself. In other words, to investigate your true nature, self-inquiry, yes, is not something you do with your mind. It is what you are. It is to be. It is to be the presence of awareness. Don't think about a process of investigation with the mind. That's why Ramana Maharshi said, the highest form of meditation is simply to be as you are. Be aware of being aware. You cannot do that. As soon as you do anything, you are, as you quite rightly say, you are going in the wrong direction. As soon as the mind does anything, you are moving away from awareness.
So is that the mind wanting to come in?
The mind has, the rising of the mind veils the knowing of our own being. So as soon as the mind rises, the peace that is inherent, or rather the peace that is the knowing of our own being, is veiled. Therefore, whenever the mind is present, we feel an absence of peace or happiness. And therefore, there is a kind of magnetic pull whenever the mind is present to seek peace. So, but the mind can only know objects, so off it goes towards objects, seeking peace, objects, states, situations, substances, relationships, etc. All it's doing is looking for peace. What it's really looking for is the dissolution of its own limitations. It's looking for itself.
So when you say turn the attention back,
Can
you explain?
No, I can't, because it's just a metaphor. When I say turn your attention around on itself, it is a concession to the object knowing attention. It is as if I was saying to your attention, okay, you are used to focusing yourself on objects because you can only pay attention to an object. Therefore, instead of paying attention to an object, turn round and pay attention to yourself. Now, it's a very imperfect phrase. You cannot turn your attention round. If you were to turn round now, you would just turn round and see another object behind you. So it's not a turning around of the attention, although there is some legitimacy to that phrase.
Okay.
It's more a falling back of a
sinking
back of the attention, a sinking of the mind into the heart. The mind is the object-knowing attention. The heart is pure awareness. It is the sinking of the object-knowing attention, a falling back, a relaxation of the object-knowing attention into its source. So if anything, it's a process of relaxation.
Yes, I understand.
But it's not even a process of relaxation, because awareness is already perfectly relaxed. It's just pure being and the knowing of that being.
It's just staying there.
It's simply being aware of being aware. That is so don't think of self-investigation. Think of self-being, self-abiding.
So there's no inquiry there. It's just...
It may be initiated by a question. I thought I was this collection of thoughts and feelings, but I realize these all pass away, but I remain present. What am I then? It may be initiated by that question. What am I? With that question, we turn our attention towards the I that knows our experience. That's as much as the mind does. Just that it asks that question once. What is the knowing with which I know my experience? Or with what do I know my experience? That's it. That's the mind has done its job. With that question, awareness gives its awareness to itself. In other words, be aware of being aware. That is self-inquiry. That is self-investigation, self-remembering, as Gurdjieff and Ouspensky used to call it. It is meditation. It's true meditation, or rather, it is the highest meditation. That's not to denigrate other forms of meditation, but it is the only objectless meditation. It's the only meditation that doesn't require an activity of the mind. And as you say, at a certain stage of our exploration, we realize that anything the mind does takes us away. Mm-hmm. And then we're ready for this ultimate meditation, which in the mystical Christian tradition is called the practice of the presence of God. Being knowingly the I am that I am. In all the spiritual traditions, you find this, it's like the golden thread in all the traditions. Being aware of being aware. Know that I am.